Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're demystifying how cutting-edge AI solves the incredibly dirty, physical problem of environmental compliance in North American trade. We are going to look at the 905 Wood Digital Refinery, which is a system that effectively turns what used to be a massive, expensive disposal liability into a verified, tradable asset. All right, let's take a quick look at our roadmap. We'll be covering the new waste economy, OREG 347 strict liability, Edge AI and Gemma 4, the 5-mode model council, explainable compliance powered by AlloyDB, and finally, the Vertex time machine. Let's just jump right in. Section 1, the new waste economy. We really have to start by zooming out and looking at the crushing regulatory cliffs that are rapidly approaching the industrial waste sector. Just look at the sheer speed of this regulatory cascade. It completely wipes out the old dump and forget business model. Right off the bat, we see the 2025 enactment of Bill 5, which fundamentally reshapes provincial environmental assessments to streamline construction. But for the industrial, commercial, and institutional waste sector, the real financial squeezes hit back-to-back over the next few years. You've got the 2026 CRCL levy, followed by a total clean soil landfill restriction in 2027, and finally, the R-Wood ban in 2029. And that 2029 ban demands absolute, forensic-level proof that clean wood is actually diverted away from landfills. And the absolutely crucial number you need to remember here is $60. That incoming CIRCLE levy, which, by the way, stands for Circular Innovation and Recycling Contribution Incentive Levy, is going to ultimately hit operators with a $60 per ton tax on industrial waste. It is explicitly designed as a tax on bad behavior, to fund good behavior, hitting operators right in the wallet to force that diversion. Moving to Section 2, OREG 347, strict liability. Because navigating around those incoming costs means dealing with the absolute labyrinth of Ontario's environmental law and specifically the harsh reality of strict liability. Under this regulation, bad isn't a legal term, but hazardous absolutely is. Take a look at this definition. Schedule 4 leachate quality criteria dictates the specific chemical and toxicity thresholds for waste. So, for example, if you've got a piece of old deck lumber that undergoes a toxicity characteristic leaching procedure, or TCLP, and it leaches arsenic above 2.5 milligrams per liter, well, legally, it's no longer wood waste. It is hazardous waste. And guessing wrong on whether a piece of wood is clean or toxic triggers devastating legal consequences under this exact schedule. And this brilliantly illustrates the real terror of OREG 347. The regulation enforces strict cradle-to-grave oversight, meaning if you haul contaminated wood without a proper digital manifest, you're technically trafficking hazardous waste, and you own that liability forever. The risks are just astronomically high, which means human visual sorting on a chaotic job site simply isn't good enough anymore. So, how do we fix this? Section 3, Edge AI and Gemma 4. To solve this problem at the literal construction site gate, we have to look at the rugged hardware deployed right there in the mud and dust. The solution requires placing the intelligence exactly at the point of generation. Let's contrast standard black box cloud systems with a localized Edge AI approach. Imagine a truck driver waiting at the gate in a total cellular dead zone. You absolutely cannot afford to wait 30 seconds for a massive cloud model to process an image over a weak 5G signal. That's exactly why the 905 Wood system uses light RT to run the quantized Gamma 4 26 billion parameter mixture of experts model locally, right on the device's Tensor G5 chip. This creates an offline first workflow that gives you a binary triage between clean and treated wood in under 2 seconds. Pretty incredible, right? But it's not just about looking at pictures. Constrained decoding on the 4th-gen TPU actually fuses visual data with ambient audio to instantly enforce a precautionary principle right on site. What does that mean? Well, if the camera sees what looks like perfectly clean wood, but the microphone picks up a human operator yelling demolition over all the background noise, the system actively shatters the clean visual score. It flags the load as high risk right then and there to prevent an intentional chemical hijack. Moving on to Section 4, the 5-mode model council. Because identifying the wood is really only the sensory layer. We still need a brain to check the complex legal rules and ensure ultimate compliance. The architecture uses this multi-agent workflow called the 5-mode model council.
First up, Google's Gemini acts as the eyes and ears, utilizing its massive 10 billion token per minute throughput to handle all that high-volume, unstructured physical data at the gate. But then, the regulatory verification layer is handed over to Anthropic's Claude. Since Claude has a 1 million token context window, it literally holds thousands of pages of dense regulations in its active memory. It effectively knows the entire rulebook by heart, kind of like a compliance lawyer who never sleeps.
This council methodology demands that physical sensor data is cross-referenced against the clean fuel regulations and provincial standards before any load is approved. Instead of trusting one single model blindly, this setup triangulates the truth. So if Gemini sees a railway tie, Claude immediately queries its active memory to see if a railway tie actually qualifies as eligible feedstock. It ensures the entire system acts as an uncompromising legal bouncer rather than just a simple calculator. Section 5. AlloyDB and Explainable Compliance. Next, let's zoom into the actual database engine that powers this intelligence and translates it into a hard legal defense. Now, check out how AlloyDB AI uses the scan index, which stands for Scalable Nearest Neighbors, to instantly match the physical truth from XRF sensors directly to vectorized legal text. For instance, when the hub's XRF sensor detects arsenic at 3.1 milligrams per liter, the system queries the OREG 347 database and immediately spits out the legal output, proving it fails the 2.5 milligram TCLP limit. And this right here is the very core of what the architecture calls explainable compliance. It completely refuses to act as a black box. When it stops a truck, it doesn't just give you a generic no or rejected status. No way. It actively queries AlloyDB and prints a fully audit-ready, high-contrast manifest that proves exactly why the material is hazardous, citing the specific schedule and regulation. Finally, Section 6, the Vertex Time Machine. We're zooming all the way out to North American trade and the massive strategic shield this creates for cross-border logistics. To permanently bypass USMCA border tariffs and guarantee flawless domestic reporting, Vertex ML metadata essentially acts as a time machine, creating a static decision graph. It logs everything, the exact AI model version used, the specific training data parameters, and it even freezes the precise legal text of OREG 347 that was active at that exact millisecond. Then it syncs all of this directly to the provincial registry via the RPRA HWPR API, all while securing the data with PIPEDA-compliant Montreal residency. You're effectively freezing every single legal decision in Amber for future auditors. It's a real game changer. By replacing those old error-prone paper manifests with this secure digital refinery, operators achieve reasonable assurance for carbon markets. This pipeline seamlessly pushes data into the registry, actively shielding you from cross-border fees and those punishing domestic surcharge levies, all while keeping your enterprise incredibly competitive. It literally turns complex environmental compliance into a production-ready revenue stream. So I'll leave you with this final thought to consider about the hidden risks and opportunities sitting right there in your own supply chain. If your waste isn't actively generating carbon credits and border shields, is it really just a massive liability waiting to hit your bottom line? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today, and we'll see you next time.